one of the most exciting fullbacks in the country for his age. That's how John Eustace described Liverpool youngster Owen Beck at the club's media day. Derby head coach looks set for a reunion with a third member of the Blackburn squad he guided into the playoff places before returning to Pride Park in February, with local media reports suggesting the deal should be done in the next 24 hours as of now. So who better to have another conversation with ahead of this next reunion? There's another reunion for us, as Ryan Hildred from the Arte Labore podcast with the Lancashire Telegraph joins me again today. Blimey, I think we need to get this video sorted pretty quickly from the sound of things, Ryan. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. It's becoming a regular occurrence, this, isn't it? As John Eustace seemingly is picking off the Rovers squad. But yeah, we're all good, thank you. All good. Good to be here.
I've practically got you on speed dial at this point, mate. It's yeah, it is becoming quite something because depending on which outlets, which sources you believe, it might not end here as well. But Owen Beck, of course, big signing. In fact, let's just start there with that squad being picked off. What's the feeling around Blackburn towards the likes of John Eustace and Derby right now?
I just think it's one of those that I think the one that would hurt, and we'll obviously chat about him later, is Callum Britton, because he is a shining star of the squad. So I think the levels of anger would probably elevate somewhat if Britton found his way at Pride Park. But I think that so far we kind of understand what John Eustace is doing. Vyman and Bart are two very trusted lieutenants that clearly he was going to rely upon, and clearly those two signed for Rovers because of John Eustace, so not surprising in that regard. And then Owen Beck also, he was brilliant for us last season, and I'm not surprised that he's going for him also. So there's a lot of tongue-in-cheek at this moment in time, but I think the tongue-in-cheek will change if you end up signing Callum Britton, that is for sure.
Right, interesting. Because I guess there's a difference here with Beck having been a loanee, right, as well, where you weren't guaranteed he was going to come back to you or anything like that. So there is a shift there. But that's really high praise from John Eustace this afternoon. Really interesting that he's willing to speak publicly to BBC Radio Derby and to the Derby Telegraph about Beck, which is a pretty strong indication that things are close, as we were just saying off air. What do you think his biggest strengths are?
Oh, without a shadow of a doubt, he is one of these modern day fullbacks that can really get forward. So first and foremost, he's got that great ability to go. So he can dribble. So if he wants to take the ball himself, he'll knock it past someone and get past someone that way. Or if he makes an inside pass and then makes the run down the line and someone can find him, he'll get himself in behind a defender that way as well. So he's a fullback that likes to attack and likes to get forward and influence that attacking third of the pitch as well. So that is an undoubted strength. However, people associate those types of defenders without being able to defend. And I think, ironically, Trent Alexander-Arnold at Liverpool was one of those examples who would get criticised for his lack of defensive ability. Beck isn't one of those. And he had no harder debut than away at Turf Moor, away at Burnley. So that's where he made his debut last August. And he put in an outstanding performance. Burnley didn't drop many points at Turf Moor last season, and Rovers were full value for the point at Turf Moor last season as well. And Beck did really, really well. Hostile atmosphere, really, really vicious, as they always are at Turf Moor. And he's a young lad making his debut. We'd gone down to 10 men in the game as well, because Maktar Gay got himself sent off. So there was a lot of backs against the wall for Rovers and having to defend deep and dig in deep as well. And Beck really stood up to that challenge. So he is a really good blend of good defensive abilities with that ability to get forward as well. And I'm actually surprised he's going out on loan again, because I was watching the situation with Andy Robertson and Shimmerkas at Liverpool, and I just wondered whether they might keep him in the squad. But clearly they're thinking another season out on loan is a good thing for him. So I think he is a Premier League left-back in waiting, definitely. Whether it's at Liverpool is another kind of case in point, but definitely Premier League level in the future. Definitely.
Yeah, I mean, just looking at reports today, Shimmerkas, who knows how that's going to go, but Andy Robertson has just been named Liverpool vice-captain. So despite the earlier links to Atletico Madrid, you do feel like he's probably still going to stick around the competition for Kirkes. But to hear that you think that Beck could be the long-term kind of competition there even is something that should get Derby fans really, really excited. I mean, just as you were talking there, at first you're talking about the attacking and the you know, Trent Alexander-Arnold, and I'm thinking, oh no, how's this going to work? Because you got Kane Wilson at right back, who's also very attacking. But the fact that Beck can do both, I think, will give Derby that bit of flexibility depending on who plays on the opposite side at fullback as well. That's going to be big, particularly at this stage in the season where Wilson, Nyambi both injured. Who knows who's going to fill in there short term? Will Britain come in? But yeah, I think for back four, that all-round fullback is key. There has been a lot of talk, despite Eustace saying he wants to move to the 4-2-3-1, a lot of talk from fans around perhaps Derby sticking with the 3-5-2 for a bit longer, or certainly having that as an option. Can Beck operate in that sort of system?
100%, 100%. He would definitely be a left wing back in that type of formation. And actually, Rovers last season, we were starting to think about him as a left midfielder, actually, because we play the 4-2-3-1. So the left of that three behind the striker. We had a really, really interesting time with left backs last season because Harry Pickering went into the season as the steady Eddie who you thought would kind of be left back for the whole season, as he always has. And he had a really rough time with injuries last season, Pickering. So he got that injury before the Burnley game, which is why Beck made his debut. Beck obviously made a really great impression. Pickering then picked up a longer term injury, so we signed Yuri Ribeiro in the January transfer window. Ribeiro came in and made a really good impact. So we started flirting with the idea of Ribeiro left back, Beck as a left forward or left of the three in the forward positions, particularly because there were players like Ryan Hedges last season that just needed to add a little bit more to their attacking game. So it was really unfortunate for us that Owen Beck picked up a really bad hamstring injury in February, and it kind of put paid to that a little bit. And then we only saw him for, 10 minutes away at Portsmouth after February. So he had a real double-edged season, Owen Beck, last season. But to answer your question, the fact that we were happy as Rovers fans for Owen Beck to be the left of a three behind a striker tells you that he could absolutely be a left wing back in your system.
Yeah, that's, again, another really positive thing with that versatility. In terms of that injury, do we know kind of how he's recovered from that and whether that could linger? Because I noticed in, similar conversations around Andy Vyman, who now is not far off, according to John Eustace today. Carlton Morris should be back for Saturday, and Vyman not far behind, having been with the group this week. That was one of those that I remember when we spoke about a month ago. There were concerns about how he might come back from that injury and how that might have affected him. Do we have any idea with regards to Beck as to how he's maybe hopefully got over that injury?
I suspect that he probably has got over it. There's a couple of things that, strengthen the case for that versus Vyman, for example. So Vyman's obviously a lot older and the knee injury, anything with a knee injury, I think is just a bit more dodgier ground, isn't it? And you need more recovery time. With Beck, it was a hamstring injury. And I just wonder if that injury came from the fact that this was his first season at championship level with lots of load, lots of minutes. And we know how a John Eustace side plays, with lots of hard work and tenacity, and whether it just caught up with him a little bit in terms of his body. And that's why the hamstring tore. I fancy the fact that he's probably now been with the Liverpool physios, been with those recovery people and got that hamstring, just a lot stronger now. As I say, it was really unfortunate for us because he came back into the fold at Portsmouth. It was March, April time, I think, and lasted 10 minutes. And he left the pitch in tears because he just had a flare up of the injury. So I suspect that because of the fact he's been out since April, he's had a lot. Well, not April, he's been out since February, technically, but the recurrence of the injury in April, I suspect he's had a lot of time with physios and with medics to get that hamstring right. So, famous last words and all of that. I wouldn't foresee that as a problem because I think it's just one of those injuries that a young player could get, particularly one like Beck who is up and down that left wing. He's putting a lot of hard yards there, isn't he?
Yes, you don't think that's necessarily an injury proneness or anything like that, just maybe being rushed back a bit too soon or something?
Quite possibly. Yeah, I think so. And he's a young player as well who was probably eager to get some minutes. And Liverpool were probably eager for him to get some minutes as well. Everything we've just said there about Kirkes, Robertson and Shimikas, if they're thinking that Beck is certainly third in line, it then allows them to make a decision about Shimikas, doesn't it? So maybe there was just a bit of pressure from all parties to get him back on the pitch. And yeah, it's a shame for him. It was a real shame.
Yeah, so I guess what do you foresee for him this season if he joins Derby? Do you think he'll have a kind of build on last year and have a proper breakout year, or is that kind of the level we're talking here, or do you think it'll be just a kind of bit part squad player?
Definitely not a squad player. I think he'll be your first choice left back or left wing back, or depending on what formation Eustace plays, don't be surprised to see him in those forward areas, as I mentioned earlier. So he's definitely not going to be a bit part player. He's going to sign and play, and Liverpool will want that as well. You know, when you loan in Premier League players, Liverpool aren't going to say, "Oh yeah, stick him on your bench." So I expect to see him play. It will be, another breakthrough season for him. I think, particularly with the unfinished business that he'll probably feel like he's got. As I say, he played his last full match for us in February, so he's nearly missed a third of the season there, which has just put paid to his development. So I think he'll be looking for, a championship season where he's got over 40 games under his belt to really consolidate himself. And do you know what? He is someone that can rough and tumble in the championship level, as I say. Made his debut away at Burnley. That's a massive test. Not long after that, I think all of your listeners and followers will remember the incident with Osmajic at Preston. So he got bit on the back of the neck by Osmajic, but that whole incident resulted from Beck sticking up for himself, basically. He's, again, in another Lancashire derby. He's no shrinking violet. He got he got sent off as a result of the incident because he pushed Dwayne Holmes and did some other things, but he stood his ground, so he will absolutely roll his sleeves up for John Eustace, which is what John Eustace obviously likes in terms of his profile of player.
Yeah, and in fact, just looking as well. Obviously now 22, has played a number of times for the Welsh under-21s, but with the kind of qualifying cycle having come to an end with a tournament this summer, I believe he'll now be ineligible for that. Do you think he's kind of knocking on the door of that Wales side he's spoken about looking at?
I don't think I heard too much of it in terms of his interviews with Rovers, but absolutely, I have got no doubt that Craig Bellamy will be looking at Owen Beck. I don't know who the left back is for Wales right now, but if you're a left back coming through the Liverpool Youth Academy with some good minutes under your belt at Championship level and that ability to attack, Craig Bellamy is very much getting that Wales side set up to attack. He would absolutely slot into that system. So yeah, do not be surprised to see Owen Beck get a call up for the senior side this season. Absolutely.
Yeah, looking at it, I think you might have to dislodge someone like Ben Davies or Nico Williams.
So that's obviously a bit of Nico Williams at Forest. Yeah, so that's a bit of competition from there, isn't it? So again, just with what I was saying, maybe on that left wing, for Craig Bellamy, I know that Wales have got players like Sorba Thomas still in the squad who, yeah, he's obviously good on his day at championship level, but Owen Beck should be looking to dislodge the likes of Ben Davies and Sorba Thomas, I'd say.
Yeah, 100%. Any kind of weaknesses that stand out that we need to be aware of as well? Not to be too negative, but just the fans to watch out. Anything that was a kind of glaring gap in his game?
Yeah, well, I mean, in terms of what we saw, there weren't too many weaknesses. He really contributed positively for, just over half of a season. And it was a real shame that he got cut short in that way. Maybe there's a little bit of a temperament issue there with the thing that happened at Preston. As I say, he is a very tenacious player that, will not shy away from things. So, if you look at that incident back, Beck is not squeaky clean in all of that. Yes, Osmajic has bitten him on the back, but Beck has obviously got himself involved in something. So maybe as a young player, you could say that's a bit of a weakness, perhaps. But no, as I say, like at championship level, the fact that he can defend and attack, he is a really, really solid signing at this level, I would say. So I can't foresee too many weaknesses in that regard. I think he will contribute really positively for your side. And, Rovers fans made a chant about Owen Beck as soon as he came in. That tells you how well he's done. A lone player getting a chant in that sense, we've only got high praise for him. So I really hope for him that injury doesn't linger and doesn't niggle, because I do see him, as I say, as a Premier League left back in the future. It's just whether it's at the level of Liverpool or whether it's a bit lower down in the Premier League table.
Yeah, that kind of tenacity is something John Eustace won't mind, as we've said. But also, I think that's something fans warm to, right? Fans want to see that passion. And I think that'll get people excited. I think you look at people like Emu Adams in this Derby team and the affection that the fans have for him, that's the way a lone player makes an impact, right? Showing everything for the badge. And I think for Derby fans listening, watching, wherever you're consuming this on, that's absolutely a massive thing to be positive about. So yeah, thank you very much for that, Ryan. And yeah, hopefully speak soon.